Okay, let's go on to part three of this two-part series, um, and deal with the ways that academia have overthrown laws of cause and effect in order to teach their theories, systematic views of their own scientific observations that leave out so much empirical data in the scientific theories in which causation is invisible and presumes to discuss outcomes, and it discusses outcomes in such a generalized way that you really can't put your finger, okay, on how things happen. Theories is what we learned in college, as if the end justifies the means. But you see, methods matter. Process, procedure, and bucket list is not the same as a recipe. You know, in a recipe, let's say if I want to make biscuits, you have to have all the ingredients and you have to have them in the right proportion. And you have to combine the ingredients in the correct order, and then you put them in the oven. Okay, that's not what's going on at university when they're talking about evolution or inflation or narcissism. Okay, they teach taxonomy. Okay, just merely the classification and naming of factors and elements in an ordered system, trying to indicate natural relationships. And yes, taxonomy is useful. The US Constitution is kind of a taxonomy, right? But that is not how you build a nation. The process of building a nation requires the people to be aware of what is going on. And the fourth estate, namely the media and the public square, the methods of information, have been so disabled and deliberately falsified that most people today are shaking their heads and confused. Okay, that's not how to run a nation, by allowing the mainstream media, the fourth estate, to teach an agenda that makes light of and mocks and derides the actual efforts of people to live in a civil manner. Now, the Declaration of Independence, like a treaty, consists of metes and bounds, a description of a piece of meaning, a land, a country, consisting of both measurements and the stakeholder owners of it who are adjacent. Okay, treaty law has taken over the function and role of declaring business ethos. And in the Declaration of Independence and in the Constitution, the rights of the participants are set out. But since '54, since Eisenhower signed the Greada Treaty, which was a rubber stamp of the ancient El-Anu Treaty that left out the rights of the shareholders, and the Tau 9, which leaves out the rights of the citizens and the rights of all the people who are here. um, business has been dominating the lives of its workers relentlessly and ruthlessly. Actually, they've been doing that for a lot longer than just 54. And somehow business gets away with their bootjacked routines to impoverish, to use human resource management as a tool to set populations against each other and get the most labor for the least cost, as if there's no such thing as a living wage. Okay? The treaties that have been drafted and consented to by business, okay, they create circumstances over the heads of the people with the knowledge and consent of ETs that contain methods that are both neutral and negative. And this is why the legislation is not able to overcome the karma, the bad system that we are finding now, particularly vulture capitalism, which uses predatory banking rules. Since, I guess, Reagan deregulated the banks, they use deregulated banking rule baiting to buy up and disassemble and demolish whole industries. Never mind the effect on the people who work, okay? The left wing has no problem embracing negative, destructive, discriminatory, and hostile methods, okay? Read the Frankfurt School and Saul Alinsky if you want to see hate put to work, okay? Overruling a lawful election is no big deal to them, okay? Criminality is just fine so long as they profit from it. And that's why this election has been not only an anomaly, but such a desecration of the whole concept of governance by consent of the governed. Some people can believe Joe Biden, the lecher, the influence peddler, the traitor, has somehow won the 2020 US election. And those who think so are deceived and deceiving others. Now, what I'm doing this video for is to point out some things that Catherine Austin Fitts tweeted a few days ago. She put on her thinking cap. And she created a list of steps that need to be taken if in this country the people decide that we've got to turn things around. And I want to share that list with you, all right? Because this is what it's going to take to make the restoration and repair of our republic complete. Okay, step 1, revoke the charters of New York Fed member banks. Stop using them. Number 2, authorize community and local currencies, barter systems. Okay, and there are also pawn shops. There are also ways to liquidate belongings. 3, create escrows for federal taxes until the U.S. government obeys financial management laws, provide full disclosure and lawful spending, and not just corporate covert ops, black budget spending behind the people's backs, okay? Number 4, create state banks. Hey, how about more local, what do you call them? Credit unions. Yes, more credit unions. 5, revoke and suspend all laws preventing local sales of food produced locally and circulation of equity in local stock markets. In other words, decentralize the entire financial system and allow locals to fend for themselves and provide for themselves, never mind this global marketplace. 6, create local encryption systems to protect local citizens from NSA and Five Eyes. We're capable of that. Number 7, reestablish local control of public education. Outlaw dual passport holders in public positions. Never mind dual citizenships in Congress. Publish understandable financial statements for citizens at county and state level using GIS and other accessible analytics. Outlaw and enforce against the use of mind control techniques in state, on TV, cable, and telco. And come on, the professionals know what the mind control techniques are. They can be cleaned out. Let's stop teaching our children to be cynical and hateful and disrespectful of elders. Number 11, end all lockdowns, because this epidemic is not a fatal disease at all. Prosecute media engaged in misrepresenting biohazards. Yes, it's time for the media to fess up to the fluoride in the water and the glyphosate in the food and the 5G exploding water molecules in human cells that cause all the same similar symptoms as this particular pandemic does. Number 12, cancel 90% of fines on citizens. Replace revenues by taxing big tech monopolies and inlines and online sales in state. What are these billionaires being allowed to do to accumulate billions and trillions? Whoever said that hoarding is an ethical, decent practice to follow? As soon as you have a hoarder, what you have is a consolidation of power that disempowers everybody but the hoarder. Hoarding at the levels of billionaires and trillionaires needs to be simply halted. And number 13, create local telco capacity to bust up telecommunication monopolies and overcharging, and also electric. Here in California, PG&E is the monopoly. They just quintupled my bill. Why? Because they said after the fires that they were going to make their customers liable and responsible for the fire damage that they caused. There needs to be an alternative energy option for people living in apartments and houses who don't want to kiss up to a single monopoly utility. I've been thinking about, okay, I could get a generator. That'd be about $1,200. Makes a lot of noise and creates a pollution problem with the exhaust gases. But I remember a friend I had in the 90s, Jerry Schafflander, who had been a professor at Harvard, and he got an invention and put together a company to make liquid hydrogen fuel out of water for 15 cents a gallon. Okay. And Congress put him out of business. Okay. So liquid hydrogen fuel is a safe and sustainable, I think that's the correct word, alternative for all of the electric companies and all of the gas companies. But it's not being pursued because the oil magnates who make billions and the solar people and the wind people and the establishment, they have to be at the trough first. They have to win first. It's them first, always and only. And you can tell that that's their mentality, because if you look at Congress, if you look at the House of Representatives and the Senate, the leaders of the legislatures are the people who have become stinking rich off of their elected positions, and they don't care about the little people at all. I think term limits needs to be revisited, and campaign finance, which is an established form of bribery, needs to be revisited. Let's not utilize bribery to finance campaigns, okay? Let's not make corporate deep pockets the only people in our country who can thrive here anymore. All right, so this has been my part 3 to my two-part series on what we need to do to turn not only this foreign interrupted election around, which is going to take the Department of Defense and the military, but also we need to turn Congress around, the judiciary around, and the media around, unless we are going to be satisfied with a broken republic and another socialist broken, taken apart system, which we've been tolerating now for way too long. And so this has been Emily Craig, and I've learned a lot in order to produce these 3 videos, and I hope that I'm making some sense to you. That's what I'm trying to do. That's what a grandma is supposed to do. Make sense to the young people and get them put their thinking caps on, because that's not what's going on anyway. We're still playing around with local court cases and testimonies of people who saw this and saw that, when in fact the election had 3 very large faults. One was 10 million counterfeit votes that were many of which were printed in China and shipped here. The second is the Dominion software that was designed to flip votes. And the third was the Democratic hierarchy that paid poll workers to violate state laws. That's an election that's broken at 3 levels. And the first level is international. Now, how any adult in the United States can claim that that's just not enough evidence of a rigged election. Come on, put on your thinking cap. Stop kissing up to the billionaires and the trillionaires and the oligarchs and the people who have no sense of political or ethical decency. We have to turn this country around, or we're going to lose it completely. So pay attention to this grandma. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.